بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني ويفقه قولي. Inshallah al-Aziz, we will begin our today's session of Seerat-e-Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the previous session, we discussed the kafalat and the guardianship of Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, and then after that, it was Abu Talib whose guardianship under Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. Then we discussed the various, events that happened throughout the life of Prophet ﷺ when he was under the guardianship of Abdul Muttalib and Abu Talib, and some of the treaties that he was part of, peace treaties amongst many tribes of the Quraysh, and his famous journey towards Syria or Sham, where he met Bahira the Rahib. Now in today's session we will discuss his full-time engagement into business and him getting the title of Amin, Sadiq and Amin, the famous two titles that he was famous of even before prophethood. We will also discuss how he was a shepherd as well, and him taking the goods and the items of Khadija radiallahu anha, who was a businesswoman of the time. So inshallah we'll begin with him being engaged into full-time business. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, in his young age, at a very young age, he started engaging himself into business activities. As a person and as an individual, he was extremely noble character individual. He was very forbearant. He was extremely an individual who would let go of things. He would not dispute. He was very patient. So he knew, what it takes to be a businessman. He was also very skilled how to sell the items. And one of the great things that he had, the quality that the Quraysh did not possess, and only Prophet ﷺ had the full kamalat of that quality, was being trustworthy individual. Quraysh always trusted Prophet ﷺ with their items. Quraysh were always trusted with their deposits, whether it was wealth, whether it was anything else of value, of extreme value. They would not trust anybody but Prophet ﷺ. This is before prophethood. Even after prophethood, even them becoming the enemy of Prophet ﷺ, this quality of Prophet ﷺ was so much in their knowledge that they would not deny that, and they would only trust Prophet ﷺ despite of treating him as an enemy. That's how much his amanat and his sadaqat was known in the entire Quraysh. He was also one of those individuals who was very haya, with the most haya, meaning that he would abstain himself and keep himself away from futile talk which is of no good nature. Hence, his complete personality was such that he was known as Amin, that he has all the good qualities and none of the bad qualities. Abdullah ibn Abi Hamza, he mentions that one time I did some sort of business transaction with Prophet ﷺ, and I owed something to Prophet ﷺ. So I told him, look, stay where you are and I will return and I'll give you back what I owe you. He goes home, but he forgets. 3 days later, he remembers that, I told Prophet ﷺ to stay, at so and so place, and I'll give it back to him. Hence he rushes towards that place, and he finds Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam being there for 3 days. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not move from that place. Like, he was so honest in doing business that he knew when somebody has told him to do something, they'll do it. And he was very, very fully committed to his commitments, that he did not move from that place. And when he came back, he apologized. So Prophet ﷺ only told him, "Oh, you only caused me inconvenience. Had you not caused me inconvenience." This tells us that how we should fulfill our commitments when it comes to business transactions. Another riwayat of Abdullah ibn Sa'ib, he mentions that in the time of ignorance, Jahiliyyah, Prophet ﷺ used to be my business partner, and we used to do business on a regular basis together. So once Prophet ﷺ declared prophethood and I went to see him, I asked him, "Do you remember me?" Prophet ﷺ said, "Of course I remember you. You are my partner in business when we used to do business transactions." Hence, he had good business ties with other people as well. Despite of them not being engaged with him, yet he always remembered his people and kept good ties with people. This tells us how important kinship is and relationships are in our lives, social lives. And it's not just about blood relations, non-blood relationships as well is extremely important. Qais ibn Sa'ib as well also mentions, in the time of ignorance, Jahiliyyah, I made Prophet ﷺ my business partner, and he would never engage in any kind of dispute and any kind of fights when it came to business transactions. He was very, very forbearant, and he had great wisdom in doing business transactions. So this is very important that we have those skills when we are doing business, even working for someone. Now we come to the point where Prophet ﷺ was a shepherd. We need to understand that Anbiya ﷺ, all of them, or most of them, were shepherds. They would look after the goats and the sheep, either their own personal goats or someone else's. Prophet ﷺ, from the very tender age, as we know from the incident of Shaqq-e-Sadr, Prophet ﷺ was in the guardianship and the kafalat of Halima Sa'diyah radiyallahu anha. And obviously he went with his foster brother, and he was doing what he was supposed to do, was take care of the goats. And this is where exactly the Shaqq-e-Sadr took place. Even after coming back to Makkah and being in the company of Abu Talib, he continued doing on that work. And he was a shepherd on a full-time basis. He would take care of the goats of the Quraysh, and he would grizzle them, graze them, feed them, give them water, and would take them around, and he would do that on a regular basis. Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu mentions that all the Anbiya, that there's mentions in a narration that Prophet ﷺ mentioned, none of the Anbiya have passed in this world who have not been shepherds. So this tells us that all the Anbiya were shepherds as well. That they came to this world and they were by profession shepherds. Now why this particular profession and nothing else? What's the wisdom behind it? We'll explain that towards when we move forward a little bit. In Bukhari Sharif there is a riwayat where Sahaba asked him, "O Prophet of Allah, were you a shepherd?" He said, "Yes, I was a shepherd." They were amazed and mesmerized. The Prophet ﷺ was a shepherd, like he's the Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he was a shepherd. He said, "Yes, I used to, graze the animals, take care of them for the people of Quraysh for qirat." Some meaning qirat, saying that I would take ujrat as well. Now, even though masail are not our wazifa when it comes to discourses of seerah, but there is a point here that was mentioned, so I have to mention it as well, and I feel it is important. That somewhat of this opinion, the qirat, Prophet ﷺ, it is not the shan and nabuwat that Prophet ﷺ charges ujrat for the work he does. But Musannif Rahmatullah Alayh does tardeed of this opinion, that it's for the purpose of dini work, so meaning tabligh, doing the work in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Definitely we should not charge any wages. That's not what we are charging for, right? However, when it comes to ma'ash, kasbu ma'ash, earning livelihood, it is the sunnah of Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam that they would charge ujra. And they would, get wages for the work they do, or they did. So once we need to understand the difference, that it is completely permissible that if you are working, that you charge. That's why he made tardeed of this qawl, saying that no, this is the sunnah, and he was not charging for any dini work. He was charging for simply the work he was doing, which was being a shepherd. That's actual work. It has nothing to do with, doing tabligh or anything like that. So hence, this is a complete strong narration that he was charging, a qirat is actually basically an amount of wage or whatever it was at the time. And Hafiz Hajar also mentioned this as well. Now I want to come to the point where why Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam were shepherds. Musallim rahmatullah alayhi has done, as I said, a great job when it comes to explaining tiny little points for us to understand, take benefit. I'm going to try to summarize it as much as possible. One needs to understand that being a shepherd, you have to, and the thing is that they were shepherds specifically of goats. They would take care of the goats, and not camels, and not, cows. And the reason for that is goats is a very, very interesting animal, in a sense that it runs around. It has this tendency of not going with the flock. It has a tendency of going here and there. And being a shepherd, you have to always watch them. You have to always watch them. That, they don't go around so that the animals in the jungle don't eat them alive, or they don't get hurt, or they don't get stuck with somewhere where they're not supposed to go. So you're constantly taking care of them while you're driving them, while you're grazing them, while you're giving them water, everything. You have to always watch them. And the other thing about goats is the fact that it's a very, very masoom janwar, miskeen janwar. So it has a very good quality of creating that bond with the shepherd as well, without causing him any kind of harm. And goat has a mutual relationship between the two, the shepherd and the goat. So it has a these are the qualities that Anbiya alayhi salam were trained for, basically. Because when they declare Nubuwwat, they have to have this utmost pain for the ummah to propagate the message. And they have to have this quality of that I want to do tabligh, and I want to make sure that how individuals can be saved from hellfire and go to Jannah and recognize the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His message. He has to make every effort, and he has to have extreme dard and extreme pain for the ummah in their hearts. This is one of the reasons why Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, I don't think it's mentioned here, but I'll mention it, that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as to why you chose me for the work of Nubuwwat. Why me? Allah ta'ala mentions that, oh Musa, when you were a shepherd, as I mentioned, all the Anbiyas were shepherds. So Musa was also a shepherd. So when you were a shepherd, and one time you were grazing animals, one of the small goats started running around, and you chased her, and you chased that animal so much and so much that you got really, really tired. And at the end, you were able to catch up to that animal, and you caught it. Once you caught it, you were not upset the animal. Rather, you started pressing the legs of the animal and said to the goat, basically, that, oh goat, are you tired? You must be tired running around. And that is what I saw in you, the great quality of you having utmost empathy for this goat. So I realized that this is the individual I want for my work of Nubuwwat. Hence, as I mentioned, that this was the quality that was possessed in all the Anbiya. They were trained. They were groomed into this. That this quality of I have to deliver the message. And we see the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's fikr was of, I want to, save everybody, entire mankind, from this, from the fire of hell, from the fire of Jahannam, and give them salvation through the message of Tawheed, through the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they recognize Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His akamat. This is one of the reasons Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعُ نَفْسَكَ أَلَّا يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ النَّبِيُّ أَوْلَى بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. There are many ayats in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, O Prophet of Allah, you will lose your health and you will completely lose yourself in this extreme concern for this ummah, that these people will not accept deen and what will happen to them. Same thing, the Nabi, and as I mentioned, the Surah Tawbah, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. That they were extremely haris for the ummah. They always had the goodwill and the good gesture for the ummah, nothing else. They always thought, my ummah can be safe, my ummah can be safe. All the Anbiya, for even who were sent, the Anbiya of Bani Israel, who were sent for specific ummah, for a specific time, every single time they came, they only had one concern, that they recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't transgress in the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Prophet ﷺ was sent for the entire mankind. He's the last messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence, he had concern for the entire mankind, that they should be saved from not recognizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they accept the message of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hence, this was the wisdom behind being a shepherd. Then, Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam did another famous journey, a business journey obviously, towards Syria. And this time, he met someone by the name of Nastura Rahib. And for this particular journey, Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam this time was taking the goods and the business items of Khadija radiyallahu anha. Before I get into that, let me mention some of the virtues and some of the good qualities of Khadija radiyallahu anha. This is before, again, prophethood. This is before being married to Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, what she was known for. In the entire Quraysh, she was the noblest woman. She was known that she was extremely hayadar. She was ba-parda aurat. Even at the time of Jahiliyyah, meaning that Islam has not come and the hakamat of Islam has not come, she would always cover herself. And she was a very, very noble woman. And she was a smart businesswoman as well. This again tells us a point that there's absolutely nothing wrong in woman being a businesswoman or being even a working woman, as long as she fulfills the criteria of Sharia, which is she covers herself and she's not putting up a show for other men. So we need to understand that a noble character includes those qualities. So we should not, engage ourselves with other men if it leads to, especially if it leads to different problems. We should contain ourselves. We should stay within the hudud of Sharia. That is very important that we understand. And every time the Quraysh would send their goods towards Syria or Sham, Khadija radiallahu anha would also send goods. Like, she was very, very smart in that sense. She had the business acumen, if you want to say, that she was always prepared and she knew how to do business. So she was very, very skilled in that sense as well. When Prophet ﷺ was 25 years of age, he became extremely famous with the title of Amin. And everybody in the entire Quraysh knew that Prophet ﷺ is the only individual who's Amin. And hence, she heard it as well. She heard about this man who is extremely Amin. So she hires him. And she says to him, look, if you take my goods and, do business transactions over there for me on my behalf and come back, I will pay you double. I will pay you double than what I usually pay. Now, this is the woman, why she's paying double to Prophet ﷺ? Because she knows that he possesses the one extra quality that no one else possesses, which is being Amin. Prophet ﷺ, because he was in the guardianship of Abu Talib, he realized that, because of his wealth condition is not the greatest, he's going through some tough times, therefore it is good to help out, and he accepted that offer. This also tells us that we should help out our families if we are capable of. We should not be bed potatoes, and just sleep on a couch, watch TV, and do whatever we want to do, and not help our families. When we are fully capable of doing jobs, and we don't help out our families, or we are actually working, and we forget our parents, our, brothers and sisters, and we tell them, do your own thing, and I do my thing. That's not what we should do, and that's not the teachings of these are not the prophetic teachings. Prophet ﷺ, before the Nabuwwat, these are all incidents before Nabuwwat. And Prophet ﷺ, look at his character, he is concerned about his uncle, that, he's going through some tough times, let me help out. This is his uncle, not his own father. his uncle. We don't have help out our fathers. We tell them, hey, I don't have money for you. Hey, this is my money. Hey, why are you taking this from me? We are rude. This is wrong. This is not what the prophetic teachings are. This is not the character of an ummati of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We should learn from this. Hence, she sends Maysara, her slave, with Prophet alaihi salatu wasallam. When he gets to Basra, there was a tree that was spreading a shadow. Prophet alaihi salatu wasallam sat there. When he sat there, a rahib came to him, whose name was Nastura. He saw Prophet alaihi salatu wasallam, and he mentions that, after Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, no one has ever sat under this tree. Therefore, you must be that individual who our books have talked about, meaning Nabi Akhiruz Zaman, Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then he looks at Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, completely looks at him, because he was seeing all those qualities that he saw in his books of Injil. And then he asked Maysara that, there's this redness in his eyes. Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam had this personality of awe and this robe in their personality. Therefore, their eyes and their faces were so lit up and so radiant, and they had this robe on them that was naturally given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to them, that, it would immediately impress the other individual. So he saw that, and he asked Maysara about it. Maysara said that this redness in his eyes has never left him ever. And he immediately, the Nastura says, Huwa Nabiyu, Huwa Akhirul Anbiya. In Arabic language, when you repeat something, this means that you are basically emphasizing, this is it. How we say, this is it, this is the one. This is the person, The Rahib did the same thing, and he said, hey, this is the Akhir Nabi. These are the qualities in him. Definitely, he's the one. So they recognized Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Then Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam obviously became engaged, because he was in Sham for a specific reason, which was doing business on behalf of Khadija radiyallahu anha. And he was doing business transactions for her. And when he was doing transaction, in the middle of it, someone came and started disputing with Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was forbearant, and he let go of the dispute. He did not engage himself. He did not get triggered, if you want to say. The person said, hey, take the oath of Lat and Uzza, who were the idols of Quraysh, and take the oath of them, and say that you're not speaking wrong, and you're not saying something false. Prophet ﷺ said, I do not take oath of Lat and Uzza. As a matter of fact, when I pass through, I basically turn away from them, and I pass through them with much, much caution and care. The man realized that this is not an ordinary individual. This must be the last Nabi of Prophet the last Nabi, the Prophet ﷺ, that is mentioned in the books of Torah and Injil. Hence he realized this is the Prophet, the last Prophet. And he knew that he would only take oath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hence that happened. Maysara said as it got towards the afternoon, it got extremely hot, and obviously the sunny conditions of the Arab Peninsula are obviously very, very extreme. So it got really hot, and the sunny conditions obviously made us, look for some sort of, shade, but we couldn't. And I see that Prophet ﷺ is covered by two angels are putting a shade for him. Hence, he saw this miracle with his own two eyes. And when, upon his return, Khadija radiallahu anha noticed something about Prophet ﷺ, that he returns with honor and dignity, and he was coming back. And then she mentioned all this to the women of the Quraysh. Do you see this individual? There's something new about this individual, something different about this individual. How noble he is, how honorable he is, how dignified he is. And that is something that impressed her so much. And all the women also got really, really amazed by that. After this, Maysara mentioned the entire halat, and they narrated the entire story of what he saw when he was with Prophet ﷺ. We need to understand the whole reason. Again, Khadija radiallahu anha was very, very wise woman as well. She did not just wanted to take benefit of Prophet ﷺ in terms of business, but also she realized that this is a man who has good qualities of being a husband as well. But before I get to that point, let me look after. And who can tell better about everything than a slave, a servant? They'll be able to tell you everything. And we know this. People who have servants, domestic servants especially, serving them, they'll know everything. They'll just know everything. She was a very smart person in that sense as well. That she realized that he possesses some good qualities of a husband. Right? And this is what tells us that when we are looking for someone, for a suitable spouse, what we should be looking at. We should not be looking at from a glamorous perspective, but these are the qualities of the individual, of a man. That how he is, how he does business, can he take care of me or not? Does he have those qualities or not? This is something that we learn from the Seerat. Musanna Rahmatullah Alayh over here ends this qissa and this whole part. And then he goes into details of who narrated this whole story. Was he Zaif? Was he Qawi? Different things about riwayats and everything. I'm not going to get into that. But all I'm saying is that if we wanted to take lessons, these are the lessons that we take. Number one, that we should be trustworthy and we should be truthful when it comes to business or non-business transactions. Number two, that we understand that we should have, especially if we're doing dini work with tabligh and any dini work that we do, even if we're not attached with the dini work, we should have goodwill in our heart at all times. That is something that we learn from the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, as they were shepherds. And number three, Khadija radiallahu anha, how smart she was, despite of being a businesswoman, having business acumen in terms of conducting business transactions. She was smart, and she was thinking about what are manly qualities that she was looking for. And hence, she sent her slave and servant to see and to tell her everything that he sees. So this is what we learn, that as long as we do things according to the criteria of Sharia, everything is fine, inshallah. Nobody's saying that women cannot go out and work if they choose to work. Again, it's not a mandatory condition. I'm not saying it's a mandatory thing, they have to work. But if they choose to, if they want to, if there is certain need, obviously that in today's day and age, especially with inflation and everything, it becomes hard to survive on one income at times, and women have to go out and support the family. There's nothing wrong with that. Sharia is giving ijazat, but it has to be within the parameters of Sharia, within the parameters of Deen, that we should look forward to. That how noble Khadija radiallahu anha was. Even this is the time of before prophethood. This is the time of before Islam comes and gives ahkamat of any sort, right? Khadija radiallahu anha passed away very early in her life when Islam was declared, right? Many of the ahkamat came way after, but she was already bahaya and of noble character. So our women folk as well should focus on that. We tend to go out without even thinking. Our heads are not covered, our bodies are not covered. We go out in clothes that are inappropriate. Hence we learned this from Seerah as well. I'm not even, like I said, our wazifa is not masail, but our wazifa is to take lessons from Seerah, and these are the lessons that we take. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us and practice of what has been said. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us utmost love for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Sahaba and Sahabiyat radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive any shortcomings. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.